Now that the old way of selling has disappeared, where the salesman or the business has all the advantages, we have to use a new framework to be intentional in our sales. Today, there is a new ABC of selling to approach sales with much more humanity, passion, and purpose.
The new ABCs of sales. I want to talk to you about a concept taken from the book To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink, who I mentioned earlier, which inspired this video to shed new light on modern sales practices. The old ABCs of selling, always be closing, its clarity comes from its simplicity, and it can be constructive advice, keeping sellers focused on the deal's end even during its beginning and middle. But the effectiveness of this advice is waning because the conditions in which we sell are changing. When there were fewer of us in sales and when buyers had minimal choices, always be closing was sensible counsel. But when all of us are in non-sales based selling and customers have the internet providing massive amounts of information, you have to take a new perspective and approach to selling. The new ABCs of selling are A, attunement, B, buoyancy, and C, clarity. These three qualities emerge from social science research as the new requirements for effectively moving people to make a decision in modern sales. In the book This Is Marketing, best-selling author Seth Godin explains that when we talk with our community of customers and prospects, the single most important thing we should be thinking of is simply building more trust. As a result, the goal is not to always close, but rather to always build trust. Now let's take a look at the new ABCs of selling. A is for attunement. Humility, perspective, and mimicry. Attunement is the ability to bring your actions and outlook into harmony with the people and the context that you're in. Our ability to see from someone else's perspective is a huge part of being able to achieve attunement. And Dan tells us that there are three components to attunement. Increase power by reducing it. Research shows that if you're feeling a bit too almighty, you're going to have a hard time connecting with others and therefore selling them on anything. And the antidote to that is practice a little humility. Empathy is also, of course, a very important aspect of humanity, but Dan tells us when it comes to moving others, perspective taking is the more effective of these fraternal twins. As the researchers say, ultimately it's more beneficial to get inside their heads than to have them inside one's own heart. Now, how do we do this? Simple. When you're negotiating or otherwise selling someone on an idea, try to imagine what that other person is thinking. If you've ever been to a leadership seminar or a Tony Robbins event, you'll hear lots of talk of mirroring. The problem is that, as with most advice, it's become overly homogenized, in my opinion, and all the context has been taken out, leading to moron speakers telling their audience to copy or mimic what your customer does. If they fold your arms, you fold yours, and etc. Now, don't do this. What it means to mimic is that people we're connecting to and getting on with often share our body language and vice versa. Do not copy people a la Andy from the US office. Look for mimicking and note it, don't force it. B is for buoyancy. Anyone who sells, whether they're trying to convince customers to make a purchase or colleagues to make a change, must contend with wave after wave of refusals. Staying afloat amid that ocean of rejection is the second essential quality in moving others. We call this quality buoyancy. If you understand buoyancy's three components, which apply before, during, and after any effort to move people to make a decision, you can use it effectively in your own sales methodology. As we prepare, we can psych ourselves up via positive declarations, like all of the self-help gurus have told us to do, or we can do something more effective, which is to ask ourselves a question, and it's called interrogative self-talk. And it's surprisingly effective. Now, you could tell yourself, I'm the best, this is going to be a breeze, I'm going to smash this, and that might give you a short-term emotional boost. But if instead you ask, can I make this a great pitch? The research has found that you provide yourself something that reaches a little deeper and lasts a lot longer. During your pitch, keep the positivity ratio high. Now, Dan talks about research on positivity. We want a ratio of positive to negative interactions of around 3-to-1. So 3 positive things to talk about and 1 negative thing. Not 1-to-1, not 2-to-1, and definitely not 11-to-1. A grounded 3-to-1, willing to talk about challenging stuff, yet more positive than negative. These are healthy positivity ratios as a calibration between the 2 competing pulls of levity and gravity. Levity is that unseen force that lifts you skyward, whereas gravity is the opposing force that pulls you earthward. Unchecked levity leaves you flighty, ungrounded, and unreal, and unchecked gravity leaves you collapsed in a heap of misery. When levity and gravity are properly combined, these 2 opposing forces leave you buoyant. And afterwards, the habit of believing that it's my fault, it's going to last forever, it's going to undermine everything I do is debilitating. This self-talk can diminish performance, trigger depression, and turn setbacks into disasters. It probably is your fault, but that means you need to take responsibility and change it, not just wallow in the mistake. The good news is that if it was your fault, you can change it and get better. C is for clarity. Dan urges us not to get lost in the crabgrass of details. I really like that imagery, crabgrass of details. Instead, think about the essence of what you're exploring, the 1% that gives life to the other 99%. Understanding that 1% and being able to explain it to others is the hallmark of a strong mind. And clarity operates by the same logic. Whether you're selling computers to a giant company or a new bedtime to your youngest child, ask yourself, what is the 1%? If you can answer that question and convey it to others, they're more likely to be moved. In persuading others, questions can outperform statements. We believe something more strongly when we come up with our own reasons for believing it, rather than when someone else tells us why we should believe it. Having the ability to ask the right questions is more valuable than producing the right answers in the new way of modern selling. Unfortunately, our schools usually teach us the opposite, and that having the right answer is far more important than asking questions. Are you asking questions that encourage prospects and customers to be curious, learn, and understand about your product or service even better? The idea of servant selling begins with the idea that those who move others aren't manipulators, but servants. They serve first and sell later. If the person you're selling to agrees to buy, will his or her life improve? When your interaction is over, will the world be a better place than when you began? An effective salesperson isn't just some huckster who's out for profit. A true salesperson is an idealist and an artist. Among the things that distinguish our species from others is our combination of idealism and artistry. Our desire is both to improve the world and provide the world with something it didn't know it was missing. Moving others doesn't require that we neglect these nobler aspects of our nature. Today, it demands that we embrace them. It begins and ends by remembering that to sell is human. When practicing servant selling, always ask and answer these 2 questions. Number 1, if the person you're selling agrees to buy, will his or her life improve? And number 2, when your interaction is over, will the world be in a better place than when you began? We're all in sales now. Let's serve first and sell for the better.
If you enjoyed watching this video, I want you to check out the next video I've done on the 5 steps to your perfect niche and close $25,000 per project that I've also got linked right here. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Massively appreciate you hanging out with me. In the meantime, have courage, commit, and take action. Bye, guys.